It's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another segment of the M-Squared TechCast with our weekly visit from our favorite infectious disease expert, Fred Brown. Fred, I got two quick questions for you before we get into what your presentation is today.
Sure.
First of all, I just read this morning that the spike in cases and deaths that we're seeing now is related to activities at Halloween.
Halloween?
Yeah, for death, it takes about 5 to 6 weeks to run through the system. Death is a very slow indicator and trigger for response to a virus. So yeah,
okay.
And we'll
so we could expect to see the Thanksgiving spike then next month. Basically.
Yeah, actually, right around Christmas, New Year's. Yeah,
perfect.
Okay. Sadly, is it? Yeah, so we've got surges on top of surges.
Ho, yeah. So.
Okay, and the other thing was there was there's a couple of establishments in northern Michigan that are openly defying the health department orders. There's a barbecue place in Gaylord called Iron Pig that is now selling T-shirts that say "Barbecue with a side of freedom" and "Risk it for the brisket," because they're offering dine-in service, and they've had their liquor license stripped, but they're continuing to do it anyway. And then there was a place in Ellsworth.
It is great food. You can't argue with the food, but man, the health policy is not their major.
Yeah,
the side dish of death, right?
Yeah, culinary arts, right? Yeah, definitely not epidemiology. And there's a place on US 31 just south of Charlevoix called Frisky's Farm Market and Orchard that had their Santa Claus party as scheduled on Saturday, and there were pictures from a drone. Literally thousands of people milling about. Now, granted, most of them outside, but also most of them without masks. So what do you tell people like that? I don't know if there's anything we can tell them.
Well, it's sadly, it's not just about people accepting their own level of risk. This is something we all share together, and it's not so much that the person who's going out for a brisket is so much at risk. It's that they unintentionally may become ill and then pass it on to others. And that's what's so tragic about this disease. It's not like the flu or other where you get the symptom and you say, "Oh, I'm sick, I better stay away." In this case, you feel great. 50% of us feel great even when we have the flu. We have it, and so that's the big risk, is that it moves from you who's not having a very bad impact on to someone who sadly does have a bad impact on. We sadly don't know enough about the science to be able to predict who those people are, other than if you're older, we know that there you've got about a 14 to 18 times greater chance if you're over 65, 70, respectively, to die from the virus. And that's what's so sad about it, is that it's sort of a shared responsibility we all have. And the problem with eating brisket, as you all know, is you want to take off the mask and go to it, right? And we just can't. That's the difference, I guess, between shopping at a store where you've got some distance people, and when you're eating close to people and you're having to take off your mask and to eat and drink. There's just no way around it. And so if they have a place outside to eat the brisket, absolutely go for it. But if you have to eat inside, I wouldn't do that for more than 10, 15 minutes. So you can order first and get there and just scarf it all down fast. That may lead to some unintended consequences. But my suggestion would be not to do that. If you have,
I guess I'd rather have a gastrointestinal event than a respiratory event.
Yeah, there you go.
I love the stuff, and I'm sure that, up north they know exactly what they're doing with the food, but it isn't so much the danger to you. You can probably take on that risk for people who are going into the restaurant. It's just that you unintentionally are going to, just chances are you're going to contact someone who's going to be who might have bad symptoms, and that's the tragedy of the situation. We do know quite a bit more now about mandates and no mandates, and I can show you some interesting slides. This is some work.
Please do.
So what I've been working on is actually what I did. I was asked by one of the governors who I'm working with if they could have a playbook, if they could have a roadmap to success based on. So what we've done with COVID is that we asked all the jurisdictions, there's 64 jurisdictions in the United States, we've asked them all to come back to the CDC. This was back in October, late October, I think October 22nd. And the CDC said, can you please tell us exactly what your plans are? And now we've had a chance to review all those plans. And the governors have come back saying, okay, you know, where are the holes? What do we have to watch for? And so we've come up with a playbook, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's still in edit form. So if you have any changes you want to make, you still have that chance, but we're going to get it out today because it is a little bit on the late side because we're starting to get, I can't see, there we are. Let me share this here. We're starting to get vaccines already being delivered to vaccinator sites.
I heard that the first ones are going to be delivered this week, not in the UK, I think, right?
Oh yeah, the UK is already underway. That's right, Tuesday. They're going to start with those. That was the wrong document. I apologize. So let me see if I can.
I got to get that 5-hour energy over to you there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and you know, we've got some really great people on it, so I think it's really going to help people kind of understand what some of the issues are. But here's what it looks like. You're the first to see it, literally. Well, you have some editors. Feeding COVIDs, your jurisdictions rolled back to normalcy. You can see we've split this into 3 large sections. The first large section is, you know, pre-vaccine viral suppression. So as you know, we're going through, and I don't know if you can see this all right, or let me see if I can get it on the one page here.
Yeah, it's kind of an eye test right now.
Yeah, I can't, I need to stop sharing and move it into one-page format off the line. I apologize, I can't manipulate it online.
You can also do an enlarge of the page.
Yep. There we are. So, okay. Oh, I went back to 2 pages. Apologies. We're going to get there though. 1 second. Here we are. You take a look, and I'll be back. And I believe it's this one. So here's
there we go.
So here it is, defeating COVID, and basically we have, and this is we've split it into 3 sections. The first, well, after an executive summary, where we talk about the challenges and the imperatives, we basically create a roadmap that looks like this. And basically, there are 3 big things you want to do. You want to reduce and locate the virus. Here, this is all about masking and antigen testing, right? You want to be able to mask to reduce the COVID, and we'll talk about in a second just how effective masks can be. And then with some goals, you want to N95 mask for every citizen every day, and you want to use masks and distancing when you can. And then we have antigen testing as a second part of locating, understanding where the virus is, how powerful it is, understanding which of your populations are at biggest risk. Then we go into vaccination, which is going to happen, as you know, starting basically December 12th. We'll start to have the first people in Michigan being vaccinated. We're waiting for the final, release of the Pfizer material. I've seen some of the data in advance. It looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing the complete data sets, especially around safety and efficacy, because we've got very small data sets to be able to analyze so far, kind of 200, 500 patient level data. Now we're getting, 7,000, 8,000 patient level data sets, and that's going to be revealing. But we'll find out more about that. Then the next level. I'm bouncing around here. Apologize. The next level down is actually improving. Is then once you've got the vaccination out and you're starting to get into the standard environments of simply vaccinating and keeping people at herd immunity, then you want to monitor, maintain, and improve it. And you can see that we've got 2 things. One is serology testing, which we haven't really talked that much about. And I should probably talk to you a lot more about that because we're going to start to have to do that as we roll out these vaccines, I think. Safety, and that actually we're starting to track herd immunity. And then we're going to look at future pandemic responses by building sentinel testing infrastructure, and pre-positioning rapid response resources for the next for COVID outbreaks and the next pandemic. And finally, we want to look at kind of 3 levels of normalcy. One is healthcare normalcy. How do we do that and make sure we can maintain this this new normal that COVID's created for us? Social and economic resiliency, and then we want to look at private and public partnering. You'll have to see, we have to go so fast with this infrastructure. The only way we can do that is through partnerships. We'll talk, and this goes through how to do that in quite a bit of detail. So with that, we talked about this slide, which is important. States that want to muddle through and just say, well, we'll get there eventually, just stay with us, and you don't have to worry about masking or hygiene or doing testing in the meantime. If you're in a muddle through state, and there are some that are have been called to task recently, in Iowa, for example, in the Atlantic, has been called to task for not doing enough. And if they continue to kind of muddle through, they're going to have about 2.5 times more deaths before they can get the vaccine effects, and it's going to cost their economy about 10% of their GDP more than a state that does not muddle through. It actually tries to control 2 things. One is the allocation process, and the second is to try to control the virus before you start the vaccination process, so you're not trying to vaccinate in the middle of a pandemic, right? So that shift in the curve from a high starting point to a low starting point, and the shift in the slope of the curve from something that's pretty effective to something that's ineffective in terms of allocation means that you're talking about literally 2.25 times a death and about 30% greater impact on your economy than states that start to say, we want to get control of this, we want to get ready for the vaccination program, that's that. And you asked about, this is the cost, about $6 trillion more if we decide not to do anything in advance of this versus if we do decide to do something about this. And that's based on Larry Summers' calculations. And he, as you know, was former head of the Treasury, former head of National Economic Advisors. I came up with about $1 trillion more than he did, but we're right in the same ballpark, and he's a better name than me, probably. He's also a better economist, off the record.
Okay, we won't tell anyone. So.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I try, but he's one of the great pros. So here's the question you were asking about, Matt, is, suppose we have no mask policy. Well, we actually looked at 23 states and 7 countries. I'm working with a number of these states, so I have a little bit more access today than others. If you decide, so you can see, 1 month before we implemented, this is basically kind of June, July timeframe. If we look at 1 month period before we implemented the mandate, you can see there's not much variability between these states, right? It's all kind of in a confidence interval that's that's pretty much in the same range. We were a pretty flat part of the curve, with the exception of California, Florida, and Texas at this time. So we were looking at other states. Now, what happened was some states enacted a mandate and other states didn't enact a mandate. If you enacted a mandate, then your average rate of decline in COVID new case reports was about 25% over the next 2-month period. And in some cases, in some countries that have better compliance than we did, they actually went down to 0 so quickly that it's off the chart. So some of them went down to 35% and then hit no more transmission. So that's how effective masks can be. Now, if you were in a state that did mandate a mask, that did not mandate a mask, then you'd have over the same period in the United States and these other countries, you would have 150% more new cases. This is a dichotomy that has almost no overlap. In other words, there's almost in no case did states with a mandate have more COVID new cases than states without a mandate. In no case did that happen. Well, even more interesting was the state of Kansas. Did I tell you guys about this?
No.
So the state of Kansas actually had an opt-in mask policy. And they have a certain number of counties that opted in. I think, about 1/3 of them opted in. And we tracked that. And those counties actually had a decrease that opted in and said, we're going to have a mandate. Those counties had a decrease of 6% in Kansas. 70% of the counties did not opt in. They said, no, 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 masks aren't for us. That's not for us. We want to, not opt in. Thank you very much. What do you think happened in those counties? So -6% for the counties that did opt in, right? This is all Kansas. This is all the same health system, all the same sort of level of population density, all that stuff pretty controlled for now, in the state. What do you think happened to the counties who didn't have masks versus the counties that did have masks?
I'm guessing that without masks went up, right?
The without masks went up 150%, just like we predicted.
Yeah.
What's interesting is because these masks, these counties that did opt in were pretty close to the counties that didn't opt in, you didn't have as good an effect of a full mandate, right? Because you had a little bit of crossover, a little bit. And so instead of having a 25% impact, we only had a -6% impact. But hey, -6% is a heck of a lot better than plus 150%.
Right.
And so they do work. So we could go with opt-in mandates if you wanted to and say, no, certain counties, certain groups who don't want to mandate have the masks, and it still is going to impact the overall situation. So we go into masking and how important that continues to be. We also talk about antigen testing, and here is the great quote from Tony Fauci. If you had a national plan for testing, what would it be? And here's what he said: surveillance testing, flooding the system with tests, getting a home test that you could do yourself that's highly sensitive, highly specific. And you know why that's terrific? Because if you decided that you wanted a small gathering with your mother-in-law or father-in-law and a couple of children, and you tested right there, you could test and understand what your situation was in terms of your health. And so we have a do-it-yourself kind of, am I contagious test right there in your house every day. And there are paper tests that are available that are coming out of Boston right now, coming out of Yale right now, and out of Harvard. And those are, 70% accurate. So if you do enough of those each time, you're going to get a pretty good sense of whether you got the disease or not. And the idea here is you don't have to be, he says, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. There's nothing that has no risk. This is going to have some risk, but it's so much better if we're able to do what I call ubiquitous testing into the future. And so that's what we're recommending the states move to. First, continue to do your symptomologic testing, double your capacity so you can do so you can actually do surveillance testing, actually test people who aren't feeling sick, understand what the real level of COVID is in your environment, and then move to ubiquitous testing where you can do this every day. And the FDA should start to be approving these diagnostic tests shortly. So we go through that and the different kinds of testing and what we recommend. And then here's basically what we need to get to. Right now, you can see that little line that shows kind of the number of 2 million tests a day. We're able to do about 2.15 billion tests per day in reality. Our theoretical capacity, if all we did was these tests all the time, would be 3.5 million a day. So we can get to 5 million a day with surveillance testing, with some work, but we can get there pretty quick. The trick is to move to a different kind of test, ubiquitous testing, where we have 20 million a day being capable of testing. Then you really know what your status is at all times. You can create weather maps. It's just like back in the day when we had old weather maps. Remember, we couldn't predict more than 3 days in advance. We couldn't really understand whether it was going to rain or snow, or whether it was going to be windy. Now we can tell that to an hour and exactly what your location is. And the reason is we just have so much more data coming in. Those supercomputers that are looking at all that data from a grid that's literally within every mile of the country versus before when we had grids that were sort of at every airport. You can really get accurate, and that's the same thing that we're doing with ubiquitous testing. And that's the idea. And here we talked a little bit about how that would work at your home and how you would detect your home, or you can simply use these paper tests that turn different color. Those technologies are all there. And then we move into, okay, you're ready. We give people punch lists. So at the end of each section, we say, here's what you must do, right? In pre-vaccination, you got to ramp up the supply. You've got to specifically stress of these kinds of masks. You've got to create early testing triggers and so on. We go through all those things that every jurisdiction has to do at the end of each section. In section 2, we actually talk about vaccination, which everyone is focused on right now, but it's just as important to get things down early. And so here is we're putting in the electronic links as we speak right now. And you know about how we're going to allocate the testing initially. So you've got to have, every jurisdiction has to have an allocation system once it gets the CDC vaccines. And this can be based on policy priorities, which we talked a little bit about, or based on the infrastructure that you've got. If you don't have very good infrastructure, you're probably going to have to make people come to you rather than have people come rather than having the vaccine come to them. So those, it'll differ a little bit by the jurisdiction and what their starting points are. And basically, what we see a lot of is people saying, "Oh, we'll just use our flu vaccine infrastructure." And I'll tell you, this is nowhere near enough. And you can kind of see the differences between a flu vaccine requirement and the first column, which has 100. We're talking about a third of the doses required. We're talking about booster shots being required now. We're talking about established relationships and old technology versus brand new technology. We're talking about supply chain constraints that are incredibly difficult. And so so it's not using that same infrastructure as you would for the flu. It's a good starting point, but you sure shouldn't count on it. And then we talk a little bit about what your metrics should look like. And here we have the state of Massachusetts metrics, where we look at levels of viral control you've got, that's talking about masking and the RT levels around masking. We've got infection prevention, which is all around testing. We have infection treatment, which talks about what your hospital capacity looks like. And as you know, around the country, these are getting filled up. And then we're looking at vaccination levels and distancing deployments in order to control, whether we can flatten the curve a little bit. We talk about what dose volumes you can expect. And then here's exactly what the supply is going to look like in January through June, if everything goes according to the manufacturer's current plans. And when you're going to move from a forced economy of allocation, saying, here's your test, to one where you can go and say, CVS, I want to have this test, here's my $30. I want to have this vaccine, here's my $30, and be able to be free of the constraints of the demand curve. We think that's probably going to happen right around as soon as Merck comes on the market. They won't be constrained. That'll be probably around June. So it'll be a very controlled market initially, hybrid market, and then moving to an open market. Here are the different kinds of tests, and we'll save this for another day. But there are differences in the tests, and maybe next week we can talk a little bit about why you want to use different vaccines for different situations. And here's the rollout, which actually ACIP is talking about this week, and we'll have a final recommendation from them. We think it's going to look something like this, with the first phase looking in 3 phases, A, B, and C. And we believe that it's going to be initially the healthcare and long-term care residents moving to essential work and moving to adults, but that could change. There are a number of us, me included, who would like to see a little bit more of the adults with high risk occurring a little bit earlier in this process. When we look at, out to March 21st, that just seems, long to me, and I'm concerned about death rates in this particular group, in the 1C group.
Matt, have you resumed smoking again so you can get into the high risk category?
No. Quitting smoking was the hardest thing I've ever done. I have no desire to repeat that.
Man, that is a tough one.
Yeah.
And gosh, it's a long document, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what everyone's going to be getting. Here is we go into the data sets that are required. We actually talk about how all these systems have to come together, where these linkages have to occur. And we can talk about that maybe next week in more detail. We then talk about the idea that you want to get as many vaccinator sites as possible enrolled and qualified, so you don't have to have thousands of people going to just a single site.
Which would be one of my questions. Is the military going to be involved in this? It seems like they have the logistical knowledge to be able to pull this off, right?
There are a number of states who are going to be using their National Guard to do the distribution, and I'm really recommending strongly that people do have a mobile capability. You can see, and this is part of New Jersey. They do want to have mobile capability in certain areas of New Jersey where residents don't have quite the same amount of coverage that we think we need in vaccinator sites that are fixed. So we talk a little bit about the process of which you need to enroll these vaccinator sites. We talk about mobile sites versus fixed sites. You can see here the big truck coming in, so you're able to move that around. Particularly good for Pfizer type vaccines, where you've got a very difficult supply chain and you need to have one qualification and get it around to people. Here's the fixed sites. Walgreens and CVS are probably going to be the bigger chains that are involved. And then we talk about each of these processes. And there are three critical processes: allocation, delivery, and administration of the vaccine. And you want to make sure you're focused and have a team that's focused on each of these areas. We go into a lot of what a minimal viable product looks like versus an ultimate system. So you can choose to automate any of these processes along a continuum. And we can talk a little bit about this maybe next time, because we do get into some detail here. You can get a sense of just how much capability some of the jurisdictions have already versus others who are going to have challenges if they're luckily some of these jurisdictions are smaller, so they still are going to have some challenges. We talk about then for each case, the minimal viable product, for each of the functionality required, there's about 30 functions that we've highlighted that says you've got to have this kind of capability for each of your processes. And then we talk about, if you have those kind of capabilities, here are the data sets that you need to actually have. And a lot of these are CDC required. There are about 7 of them that we're suggesting people do support so they can actually run the systems and flow the data appropriately. And we then move very rapidly into the idea of how important it's going to be to have good communications. Because without good communications, it's unlikely we're ever going to achieve herd immunity. There's so many people who are resisting the vaccine and distrustful of it, that without explaining to people why it's good for them, we won't make herd immunity. We'll be between 20 and 30% below what we need to be in herd immunity, and that's still a very dangerous environment where we can still have outbreaks. So
I hate to stop you, Fred, but we're running out of time here.
Well, we're in the middle of communications. What better chance to talk?
Yes, I was going to say, nice
to talk
segue
about?
there. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Stay
assuming
tuned next week when we, right, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
so basically,
assuming
this is what we're getting.
this book will be available to government folks if they want to get it from you.
Well, I'd be happy to put it on your website. Anyone who wants it, welcome to have it. Absolutely. It's forever.
Yeah. Well, we'd be happy to publish it. So
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
that information and we can get it out to the right folks.
I'll just go to the last page where we have a nice road with some good mile markers showing we've got crossed the finish line.
Okay.
So at any rate, that's what I've been working on, and it'll go out today, and I'll send it over to you guys, and please send it out, as to anyone who wants.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.